Deep in the heart of an African village, where the morning sun painted golden hues across the thatched rooftops, Amina's laughter echoed like the sweetest melody. She was the kind of mother who woke before the roosters, her soft hands weaving baskets before the first rays of light kissed the land. Her children Kato, Mia, and little Jabali would rush out of their mud hut, their feet dusting up the red soil as they raced to her side. Mama. Mama, they would giggle, clinging to her waist. Amina would scoop them up, pressing kisses onto their soft cheeks, her deep brown eyes sparkling with love. They were her world. And even though their father, Jabari, worked long days hunting in the forests, the warmth of their home made it feel like nothing was missing. One evening, as the village prepared for a festival, a messenger arrived. His face was dark with sorrow. "The warriors must leave," he announced. "The enemy approaches." Amina's heart stopped. She turned to Jabari, her hands clutching his arm. "Don't go," she whispered. "Please." But Jabari placed a strong hand on her cheek. "If I do not fight, who will protect our land?" She knew there was no arguing. She only buried her face in his chest, inhaling the scent of earth and sweat, praying to the ancestors to bring him back home. That night, he left. And in the morning, she woke up to an empty bed and a sky that felt darker than usual. Days turned to weeks. Then months. The warriors never returned. Amina sat outside her hut, staring at the horizon, waiting for Jabari's silhouette to appear. But only the wind answered her. With no man to hunt, food became scarce. She fed her children scraps, pretending to eat, but her stomach ached with hunger. "Mama, why don't you eat?" Kato asked one evening, his big eyes filled with concern. She forced a smile, tucking a strand of hair behind his ear. "Because a mother's love is enough to fill her belly." But at night, when the children slept, her tears soaked the earth. One night, as the village lay in silence, a storm came, not of rain, but of fire. A careless spark from a neighbor's lantern set the huts ablaze. The fire spread fast, licking the dried grass rooftops. "Mama." "The fire." Nia screamed, coughing as smoke choked the air. Without hesitation, Amina ran straight into the flames. She covered her children with her body, ignoring the burning pain against her back. By the time the fire died, their hut was nothing but ashes. But she had saved them. The villagers whispered about her bravery, her scars. But all she cared about was that her babies were safe. With no home and no food, Amina faced the hardest choice of her life. The market was full of traders, men who looked at her with hungry eyes. She knew what they wanted. That night, she wrapped herself in the only fine cloth she had left, walked into the village square, and did what she swore she never would. For a few coins, she traded her pride. The next morning, she came home with sacks of grain. Her children cheered, unaware of the price she had paid. The drought came like a thief. The rivers dried up. The once green fields cracked and crumbled. The village elders warned, "Many will not survive this season." Amina gathered her children, her voice strong despite the fear in her heart. "We will not break," she promised. "We are warriors." She led them to the forest, digging for roots, fishing with bare hands in shallow waters. When she found food, she smiled. When she found nothing, she still smiled. Her strength was their only shield against despair. One afternoon, as Amina washed clothes by the river, a sound stopped her. Drums. At first, she thought it was her mind playing tricks. But then, voices. A procession of men marched toward the village, their spears glistening in the sun. Amina dropped the clothes, her breath catching in her throat. And then, she saw him. Jabari. He was thinner, his body marked with scars. But his eyes, they still burned with love. She ran. He ran, and when they reached each other, she collapsed into his arms, sobbing. "I came home," he whispered. "I promised you." Jabari had not come empty-handed. He and the warriors had won their battles. And with their victory, they brought back food, livestock, wealth. Amina and her children moved into a new hut, bigger than their last. For the first time in years, her babies slept with full bellies. She sat outside, watching them, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Mama, you're crying." Little Jabali touched her cheek. Amina smiled, pulling him close. "Not all tears are sad, my love. Years passed, and Amina's children grew into strong, fearless warriors. One day, her eldest, Cato, returned home from the city. But not alone. Behind him were builders, elders, and villagers carrying gifts. Cato walked up to Amina, kneeling before her. "Mama," he said, tears in his eyes. "You gave everything for us. Now, it is our turn." And behind him, a house, made of stone, with a roof that would never burn, a home that would never crumble, a home built on the foundation of a mother's love. Amina lived to see her grandchildren run through the same red soil where she once carried her own babies. As she sat in the shade of a tree, watching them play, the sun warm on her skin, Jabari sat beside her, his hand still strong in hers. She had suffered, she had bled, she had starved, but in the end, she had won, because a mother's love never breaks, and it never, ever dies. The end.